All right. Oh, hi, Kelly. How's it going?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. So, for those of you who don't know, I've got Kelly Johnson here, who is the founder of Her Energy, which is a fantastic organization based here in the Waikato region. And she focuses on some really cool stuff, which I'm going to get her to talk about. So, Kelly, tell us a little bit about Her Energy and what your role is there.
Sure. So, Her Energy is basically a power company, similar to all the other power companies, except we give back to women's initiatives. So we do that on a specific rate amount rather than like a percentage of our profits, because we want giving back to be at the kind of core of everything that we're doing, and we want it to happen regardless of the company itself's financial situation. But we don't add that on top of our pricing or anything like that. It's all kind of essentially coming out of our profits.
Cool.
So the idea behind it is just to take something that's a necessity that people pay for anyway, you know, everyone pays their power bills, and use that as an opportunity to give back with kind of no extra effort, no extra cost. So that's how it kind of started. But then alongside that, Her Energy, a major part of it at the moment as well, is just trying to increase gender representation and diversity in an industry that is pretty male dominated historically. And I mean, I have been given opportunity to move into that space with a background that's not necessarily in STEM. So I kind of want to do the same for other people as well. And that's developed as part of my journey as I've gotten this started. And that's been really cool.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And so how did you decide that the power sort of angle was going to be the way to go?
Well, it all kind of started. I had an internship with a tech company in Hamilton, and that was just generally for a sales and marketing internship, because I actually studied history at university. Sorry, this is going to seem more relevant a little bit later. I studied history at university, which obviously is completely irrelevant to the power industry, but I was really involved in my university's charities committee, and I knew coming out of that I wanted to work in social enterprise specifically,
Yeah.
because I wanted to make sure that what I was doing had a purpose, and I really wanted to be able to give back at the same time as doing business. And this tech company basically had automated electricity retail. So it was kind of like they provided the means through which I could create a company to give back at the same time. And so in some ways, I almost stumbled into it. But I think having that desire to give back and have a purpose was what opened my eyes to the opportunity. And so I kind of took that technology and proposed that we start Her Energy, and give back to women's initiatives, obviously, because that's something that's close to my heart. You know, I'm a young woman, I can empathize with a lot of those causes, and we've rolled on from there. It's all kind of dominoed forward. So it was unexpected, definitely, and I've definitely had to learn a lot about the industry, and I've had the opportunity to upskill, and that's kind of why going forward I want to provide that opportunity for other women as well. So when we develop and grow, having certain requirements isn't necessarily going to be what I'm looking for bringing on other people on our team. I won't, you know, you don't have to have a certain background. If I've done history and I can move into the electricity industry, I think you can pretty much come from anything.
Yeah, that's right. I think, and you're probably not revolutionary in your thinking there, but soft skills are far more important than necessarily the hard skills in some respects. You know, you can't really teach empathy, and you can't really teach, you know, being able to read people very, you know, with a you know, a guide or a program. It's kind of something that you kind of have and develop yourself. Whereas obviously sales and marketing, a lot of that stuff, you know, you can teach after the fact. So I think that's really cool. And what I really like about it is you say we a lot. So who is the we at Her Energy?
Sure. So I say we. Basically, Her Energy at the moment is just me. However, I have a partnership with that tech company. So when I say we, I'm thinking of those guys. And so I basically am essentially renting the software off of them. That's how Her Energy can do what it does. They keep the cogs in the machine running, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that tech team is 5 people. There's 3 women and 2 men on the team, so that's quite cool to see in tech.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think of them as being the extended Her Energy family, I guess. I always say we.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. I mean, for people wondering why Rocketspark, a web builder, interviewing a power company founder, is because of that relationship with women in tech, and also just women representation in an industry that is predominantly underrepresented in that field. So that's for all of our valued listeners out there. That's why we've made this connection today. So that's awesome. So did you have like a business mentor, which is kind of giving you a bit of an overarching kind of bit of help, or are you driving this all internally?
Well, I have access to industry mentors from the tech company. So there's some guys there who've been in the industry for like decades and have been involved with all the big guys,
Yeah.
and were involved in like the smart meter rollout in New Zealand. So they know the industry in and out, and they know everything. So I'm very fortunate to be able to kind of pick their brains every now and then and ask them questions when I don't quite understand what's going on. And I definitely had, a month or two of just really in-depth kind of learning everything about the industry, because I think the electricity industry is pretty it can be a bit ambiguous and people don't necessarily understand it. I didn't understand it before getting into it, so that has been very, very useful. And then I guess in terms of the social enterprise business mentorship, there's an organization called One Up, One Down, and they are supporting women. It's a specifically women-focused mentorship program. So I got involved with that. So that's been really handy. I've been talking to someone there who has a marketing background, so that's been very good for me. But I don't necessarily have a big kind of industry woman in business specific holy grail mentor, if that makes sense. I'm learning as I go and learning from everyone that I'm talking to as well. I think that everyone has a story that you can learn from.
Yeah, for sure. And so what's been kind of the big sort of challenges or the stumbling blocks so far that you've managed to make your way around, or over, if you like?
Sure. So I think when people think power company, they don't think me, and they don't think someone as young as me. So I've had a lot of people, when I say what I do, just go, what? And I explain it and they go, what? And I think it still takes a few minutes to actually process. And obviously, initially, understandably, completely understandably, when I told people what I was doing, they just won't believe it. And getting customers on board as a result of that, you really have to have these conversations and build up trust and build up relationships with your first initial customers, because it's not an easy thing to switch providers if you're taking a kind of leap on someone and trusting that they are who they say they are. Because there's a lot of people who, if I turned around and said, hey, you can pay the same or less and give back, and then also just looking and being as young as what I am, they'd just think it wasn't true.
Yeah.
And I've had people say that, on our contact form and things. I've had people say, don't say that because it doesn't sound like the truth. And it's kind of like, well, I am speaking the truth. And eventually, the proof will be in the pudding and people realize that I am telling the truth, and we'll straight up and word of mouth will spread. And that's definitely happening. But the first few months when I was reaching out to people, I think that was probably one of the bigger obstacles, is definitely just trying to build up that trust in the community.
Yeah, sure. No, that's really awesome. And so, talking about kind of the social enterprise element to it, who are you working with in that space at the moment? What organisations are you supporting?
Sure. So our first organisation that we brought on board was actually the Aunties, just in South Auckland, and they support women who have experienced domestic violence. I got in contact with them initially just because I was on Google trying to look for women's initiatives, and I wanted to reach out to someone who I thought was doing really amazing things, and they looked like they were doing incredible things. And very luckily, Jackie Clark was willing to talk to me and give me the time of day. And so that was really cool. They were the first initiative that we brought on board. Every initiative that we do bring on board, we have conversations with. So it's not the case that I kind of just pick random charities and then say, okay, we'll anonymously donate this much. There is the relationship there, and we make sure that we've got this personal connection so that we can keep the conversation happening between everyone. And then I'm obviously based in Waipa, so we have a few Waipa initiatives on board as well. So we've got Denise Hamilton, specifically the Hamilton St Vincent de Paul. who we're working with to combat period poverty. So all of the proceeds go directly towards purchasing sanitary products for women in need. And we're working with them. I know it's not specifically a women's charity, but we don't want to be bound by kind of categories. We want to work on impact rather than categories for sake of categories. So it's supporting women through that charity. And then we're also working with Cambridge Community House to support women in Waipa who are experiencing domestic violence. And again, they have the relationships with the organisations and with police, things like that, just to really make sure that the impact is felt, and all of the proceeds there go directly to their social services and counselling services. And we're also working with Loving Arms in Te Awamutu, and they support mums and newborn babies in need and just provide whatever is needed, kind of case by case basis. And again, Shani, I had a conversation with her, and she's kind of grown that from just literally reaching out to people on Facebook and asking for support. So it's really amazing seeing these local, almost in some ways semi-grassroots kind of based initiatives that have just grown out of people wanting to help people.
Really cool. And so from a PR perspective, I mean, obviously you and I, we've had discussions in the past about trying to get a bit of awareness going for you with some of our network, which was awesome. Really, really cool to have that conversation. But the reason why I wanted to have this one with you now was because of the WYCA sort of recognition you had. So do you want to tell me a little bit more about what that means for you and whether or not you've noticed any kind of effects from that?
Yeah, sure. So it's the YWCA Y25 program. And basically what that is they have this year-long mentorship kind of and support program, and they're going to be bringing us all together, all 25 of us. Anyone who hasn't seen the list, have a look, because the people on that are amazing. I'm very excited to meet everyone. They're going to bring us all together for a hui, and we'll get a chance to connect and talk to each other, and I'm looking forward to that a lot. So that in itself, I think, is a real privilege, and it's something that has been one of my favorite parts of the last few months, in terms of just, I really enjoy talking to people in the community. I think you can't be a community-based organization and not enjoy that.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to doing. And then also definitely, I've had, since that announcement, I've definitely had people kind of contacting me, seeing if I want to talk on radio shows and things like that, which is incredibly novel for me. I've not had any of that, so that was nerve-wracking, but it's definitely been a positive thing in terms of PR, if you're talking about that from a business perspective. And the YWCA has been amazing in terms of the support that they've provided while this is all happening, because it can be pretty overwhelming to suddenly have people wanting to talk to you, that just because it did in some ways, I have had the last few months just be a very it's been great talking to people, but it has been I have to go out and have these conversations because that mistrust is kind of there. So to suddenly have people coming to me and wanting to promote me, it's definitely been a very, very positive spin that's come from everything. And again, I know you mentioned that you had promoted Her Energy previously, and big thanks for doing that, because that was one of those cool things that did happen, and you were one of those amazing people who, when I was initially reaching out to people, actually gave me the time of day. So thank you for doing that. Yeah,
that's very cool. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it just goes back to the values that Rocketspark hold really, really well, and that community support is definitely one of the big pillars of what we try and do as a business. So that's really cool. So conscious of the time, so just a couple of other things. First of all, so you're meeting all these other women, which is fantastic. Have you already singled out Jacinta, the founder of Dignity, the period poverty empire?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few of them that I have seen, and I thought, oh, there's definitely some possible collaboration there, because there's another girl in there, I can't remember her name because I'm terrible with names, who was doing it was another kind of similar thing to Loving Arms, I think, where it was supporting mums and newborn babies. There was another initiative in there as well. So I've definitely seen, and Dignity as well was one of them that came up, and I was like, okay, definitely there is room potentially to have a conversation. I don't know how they would feel about it. We'll wait and see. But yeah, I definitely think I would love to collaborate with people on that. So that's one of the positives that are coming out of that 100%. But obviously that's very much relying on their response as well, because I might go to them in the tomorrow. But who knows?
Who knows? Jacinta's fantastic. So we we're quite lucky to have met her a few times. So she works for a payment gateway company. So she's a Xero partner. So we've met her a few times on sort of Xero events and things. So she's awesome. So you'll really get along well with her. The last thing I want to ask you is what's kind of the end goal here? Like, what do you want to achieve, and how will you know that you've achieved it?
Sure. So initially, I guess I've got my sights set on the first year, in that we do want to try and make sure that everything is established correctly, our processes are set in place so that we can continue to grow from there. For me, success looks like having like genuine, impactful donations coming through. So with us, on average, a house will give back $35 a year, which doesn't sound like a lot individually, but you know, if you've got 1,000 houses on board with us, that's $35,000 that's just being directly funneled through. So ideally, being able to get to the point where we're making serious impact with our donations and being able to support charities. And we basically have, the way that we do it is we donate to charities on a monthly basis. So if we can get to a point where charities are feeling less stressed about applying for grants and things from trusts and they know that they've got some form of regular donation coming in on a monthly basis, and that just makes things a little bit easier for them, that would be really cool. That's what success looks like for me.
That's awesome. And so if you have one piece of advice for anybody wanting to get into the social enterprise game, start something cool, revolutionary like you have, what would it be?
Go and do it. I think the biggest, I know it's such a cliche and it's so cheesy to say it, but I honestly think that the biggest thing that holds people back is that their own, like that imposter syndrome and their own voices in their head. And everyone feels that. Like I feel that all the time, but I just go and do it. And like I've said to people before, you know, like having conversations like this and putting myself out there doesn't come naturally to me. Like the last time I posted on social media prior to all of this was in year 10. So social media and everything is not a natural thing for me. But if you've got a reason why, and it's something that really means a lot to you, that can push you through and that can help you out in so many situations. And whether or not you're gonna, I think I worry a little bit sometimes about perfectionism and trying to make sure things are 100% accurate. But if you've got a strong enough why, you'll be able to communicate effectively and get your point across. So just go and do it, get started. I regret I haven't started earlier, so go and do it.
That is awesome. So thank you so much, Kelly, for your time. I do appreciate it. Just the positivity and the just the genuine passion for what you do is really inspiring, and I look forward to hopefully keeping up with the journey, and perhaps we can come to some sort of arrangement sometime in the future.
Definitely. Thank you so much for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks.